watching Phuket News TV. I'm Tim Shaw, the Thailand correspondent for the 7 Network Australia, and this program, Legal Matters. Have you always wondered about the different laws in different countries and how they apply to you, particularly on matters of real estate? Joining us in the studio is Gerald Kippen. He's an expert in the area. Gerald, the whole idea of leasing a property over buying a property has advantages, but what is a lease here in Thailand?
I guess the simplest way of putting that, Tim, is it's renting. And that's, although a simple but an important point to make, I still come across clients and colleagues who will speak, even if they understand that it's not, as if leasing is a form of ownership. It is not. It is simply renting, and sometimes they don't even understand that. They actually think that that's giving them ownership over whatever, for instance, a piece of land. It is simply renting that piece of land.
Can you actually get long-term leases here in Thailand, particularly in Phuket, and are those leases able to be protected? 10 years, 20 years, 30-year leases. Is that common for leasing of land?
It's very common, particularly in jurisdictions or areas, areas in Thailand where there are foreigners that are investing in property, because foreign ownership of land is extremely limited by Thai law. As for the security issue, yes, if it's done properly, if the contract is drafted properly and it complies with the relevant provisions of Thai law, and if, for instance, it's over 3 years, which is registered at the land office, then yes, it will be enforceable.
Okay.
Secured.
If I lease that land, but then I build the structure and pay for the house or the building on top of that land, who actually owns what has been built on the land if I have leased the land?
It's a common misconception that foreigners are not allowed to own structures on land, but they are actually able to own structures on land. How that is achieved, it becomes a slightly more complex. If you're going to build on that land, you would need a right of ownership over that land before you start to build. And if that's registered first, then you can become the owner of that. If the structure has already been built on the land and you want to become owner of the structure, then you have to register that same right that I'm talking about and go through a transfer at the land office.
Gerald, can I actually sell my lease or transfer it to an heir?
Two separate questions. Thai law is very clear on the fact that you can assign your lease or transfer, as you put it, as long as the contract provides, as long as either the lessor agrees or they have consented beforehand, basically. If they've put it into the agreement saying that they, during the term of the lease, will allow for the lease to be transferred, then yes, you can do that. Without, in the latter case, without the later or additional consent of the lessor. However, with regard to inheritance, that's an open question, somewhat of an open question under Thai law. It's not settled yet. The law does not provide for that. But it's possible that the Thai law could be interpreted such that, especially if the landlord has given pre-consent for transfer, that an heir would be included. It's simply something that hasn't been settled yet.
Tell me this, is it safer for me to lease land from an individual or from a company?
Well, if the company's, the issue, during your initial term, as long as the contract's drafted properly, and if it's over 3 years, it's been registered at the land office, it doesn't really matter. However, that becomes an issue, what you raise, if there is a renewal clause. Because under Thai law, a renewal is not considered enforceable against a new owner. Therefore, if it's an individual and they pass away, for instance, during the 30-year term, their heir will not have to honor the promise to renew. So one could argue that a company doesn't die, and if that company stayed functioning for the 30 years, then it would be enforceable against the right to renew against that company. There's no guarantee a company is going to be around either, though, in 30 years from now, if it's not tended to properly. So that's the long answer. The short answer is if yes, it would be better off. You'd be better off with a company for renewal purposes as long as that company is functioning.
Gerald Kippen, thank you very much. If you'd like to contact Gerald directly, go to dktaxandlaw.com or visit thephuketnews.com. This has been Legal Matters with Tim Shaw. Until next time, bye for now.